Welcome to episode 71 of Enter the Mind podcast, the most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind. In today's episode, we have a really cool interview to share with you guys, and I'm going to let Kira introduce our guest today.
Alrighty, hey guys. So this is Heather. She is a holistic healer and a life coach. And she's here today to teach us about working through trauma and finding ways to be grateful for the traumas that have gone on in your life so you can transmute them, etc. But I'm going to let Heather do the talking. So Heather, hi. Thank you so much for being here. And would you like to introduce your success story?
Hi, yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I thought that the best way to share would just be through my own personal experience, because it's just the easiest one to get to tell people about, just because it was my own personal experience. Even though I have helped so many women that have gone through so many different things, I still think that all of our stories are relatable, because as humans, we all have the same core emotions. So we all can relate in some sort of way to everyone's story. So I think it's just easier for me to get a little bit more personal about mine. So a few years ago, of course, I've gone through all sorts of trauma throughout my childhood and life, just as much as I believe everyone has trauma and pain. But about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, things started to spiral really quickly for me. So my dad passed away unexpectedly from a massive heart attack. And I was super close with my father. So this was like really detrimental to me. And I was married at the time. Thankfully, I don't think that I would have made it through his death without my husband. And then not long after he passed away, I kind of had this hole, this void, and I wanted to have a child. So me and my husband decided to have a baby. And as soon as I got pregnant, things were off. Things were off. Things were weird. And that caused me to be very emotional and hormonal during my pregnancy. Of course, that's normal during pregnancy, but when your relationship is starting to be distant, especially one that you're over the moon about, you feel like this man saved your life. And then things start to get distant and you start to feel weird. So my depression and my anxiety was getting really, and I was young, I was only 21. So my anxiety and my emotions, I just didn't understand. And this is my first pregnancy. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Even though it was planned. I don't think you can plan for something like that to be ready for something like that. But whenever my daughter was 4 months old, I finally started to understand what was going on. So my husband wrote me a letter and told me that he was transgender. And now there's absolutely, nothing wrong with that. But the problem is it's not like you just wake up one day and you decide this. It was something that, he had been struggling with his entire life. And he married me knowing this and had a baby with me knowing this. And the persona that was there was just not who they really were. And so when my daughter was 4 months old, I had lost my father, and now it felt like my husband had died. But it was almost a little bit, it was I don't want to say worse than death. Of course, I'm glad that they're actually alive and not dead, but that person just never existed. So it was it was a betrayal and a loss that I don't think that I could have easily processed, especially because I was dealing with a lot of postpartum depression at the time. So for me, my postpartum depression and it was mainly because our relationship seemed distant. I didn't understand, I thought I was losing my husband, he didn't want to be with me anymore. There was something wrong with me. I was taking everything really personal. And so I thought that having a baby ruined our relationship. It ruined our marriage. It ruined everything. And so it's not that I had any hate towards my child or anything. Thankfully, it wasn't like that. I loved her, but I just felt like I regretted everything, if that makes sense. It just felt like it it made our relationship, it ruined everything. Like we shouldn't have done this. Maybe he didn't want to have a baby. And that was another thing. It was like huge. Like I felt trapped. I felt stuck in the relationship. I felt like he only had a baby with me so he could come out to me as transgender and maybe I wouldn't leave because of the lie, you know? So it was a really crazy, very traumatic time. I lost my mind. Like I was going to work every day. I was a hairdresser and I was going to work crying and I was just like, not okay at all. I felt very abandoned because that was some of the things that I dealt with as a child was abandonment. And, so it was like all triggering every emotion that I had ever experienced as a child. And basically I got to a point where my body was like shutting down. Like my heart was palpitating. I was having panic attacks and I was like having mental breakdowns, like basically daily. And the only things that I had known to try, I was like addicted to smoking weed. Like I would smoke weed all day, every day, because like it was the only thing that would help me through like the motions. Like I just needed to numb myself and check out. And then I tried therapy, but therapy didn't like, it was just not very helpful. Like she was there to listen. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with therapy, and that it's not helpful, but for me, it just wasn't. Like she would just ask me questions and then we would talk about it. And like, I don't know, it wasn't, the only aha moments or breakthroughs I was having was just by hearing myself talk about the situation. And then I still felt after each session that I didn't know what to do next, if that makes sense. Like there was no guidance. It was just like somebody was listening to me. And it's like, yeah, I was having some aha moments from my own words, but I didn't know what to do next. There was no mentoring. It was just like an open space to talk. And it's like, that's not really what I needed. So therapy and then chronic smoking, marijuana did not help me. It was just what I thought I needed. So then after I, got to this point, like I felt like I was shutting down. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what happened. I feel like it was my higher self. It was like the spirit, creator. Something came to me, something, kind of just showed me the way finally. And I was led into meditation. I learned more about meditation. I started to understand meditation and and what I loved about it is because I had tried meditation before after my dad died. Like it took me a good 6 months after my dad died to be like, okay, like to leave the house without like crying and losing my mind. So meditation helped, but I didn't understand meditation. I thought I was supposed to do it, like be silent, clear the thoughts, do all the things that society kind of makes you think that meditation is about. And so I stopped meditating because I thought I was doing it wrong. Well, then when I was kind of forced into this situation and I was alone again, I decided to give it another try. And I'm so thankful that I did because that's actually what started my healing journey. And I was still a hairdresser at the time. So I didn't even know that I was going to switch careers. And this was just going to become my new passion to teach about meditation and to teach about healing. Like it was just so crazy. I had no idea. But as soon as I found meditation and things started changing so quickly for me, I found myself at work talking to people like I was doing their hair. Well, I was hardly doing their hair because I wouldn't shut up. I was just like, we would be there for an extra hour at least because I would have to stop doing their hair and talk to them about meditation. And they're just like, what's happening? Like they just watched me go from losing my mind to being obsessed with meditation. And so it was crazy. But then finally, after a few months of really getting into meditation and just doing whatever research I could on healing, I tried literally everything. I read all the books. I did the research. Like I said, I tried therapy. I tried timeline therapy. And I did all of these things. And thankfully, I took note of everything that I did. And basically, then I found my health coach program, my certification program. So then I went to school. And the next thing that changed my life was learning and understanding about the stress response and how the stress response, if we are in it chronically, which is so easy to be in the stress response chronically in this society because we are just moving so fast all day, every day. And understanding that our body doesn't know the difference between you fighting with your coworker, your your spouse, and being chased by a lion. To your body and to your brain, it's the same thing. So when we're in the stress response, our body is physically shutting down. We're not able to digest our food. We're not able to digest information, and we're not able to create or do anything inspired. And then this is where the overwhelm comes in. And this is where our anxiety can come in and say, we're not good enough. We're broken. There's something wrong with us. And it's just because we're living in a chronic stress response. So understanding the stress response and understanding how to get out of the stress response easily, mainly through breathing techniques and just trying to understand what's causing it. Listening to your emotions, understanding that your emotions are the messengers. They're just trying to tell you something. So what really helped save me was a mix of meditation and stress response understanding with anxiety, because I did a meditation to befriend my anxiety. So basically I learned how to do a meditation where I could see my emotions as if, I don't know if you've seen Inside Out, the movie Inside Out, where they're like little characters. The emotions are little characters. It's a kid's movie. But
it's still super cool. I love that.
Yeah. So basically you just imagine that your emotions are like little characters inside your mind, and you talk to them and you become their friend so that you can understand them. So when they show up, so for me, anxiety was just really heavy in my chest. So whenever I would feel that heaviness in my chest, I'd be like, okay, I'm getting anxious. What do I need to know? And basically the first time this happened, this was before I found my health coach institute. And I was wanting to explore and educate myself more on healing. And I was and then I was like, okay, so what am I doing right now? And I was just laying there watching cartoons. I was doing a lot of mindless junk that wasn't really helping me. And so I was getting anxious and I didn't understand. So then I just started thinking about it. I was like, okay, what am I doing? And then I looked and I was like, you know what? I'm talking about wanting to educate myself and wanting to grow and change and do all these things. But what am I doing right now? I'm doing something that I always do, is I turn on these cartoons that I've seen 100 times. So I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to put on if I want to watch TV, that's cool, Heather. Let's put on a documentary. Let's put on something that's going to be educational. And then my anxiety was immediately gone. My anxiety was just showing up to tell me something. It was like, look, dude, you want to change, you want to do all these things. Quit watching cartoons that you've seen 100 times. Let's put on something educational. And then the final thing that really helped me shift and change my life, and it made the healing process go even quicker, was learning energy healing. So I'm a Reiki master, and I'm also a sacred soul alignment practitioner. So I do energy work, and it's all about intentions. So it's intentions on how to move through your emotions, which emotions are just energy in motion in your body, right? So that's the energy work, is learning how to use your intentions to move through and understand your emotions, your energy. And then that is just I believe you have to have a foundation of understanding on top of having guides and mentors to get you through that. But a combination of understanding what true life meditation is, which to me, it's not about silencing the mind. It's about understanding your mind, what is going on there, because your thoughts, belief is the blueprint for your life experience. So what you believe is creating your life experience. So the easiest way to figure out what it is you believe is meditation, because people think that they're doing it wrong because they're sitting down and they're like, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. The thoughts that they don't want to think start coming up. But the thing is that's a good thing. You want to know what's coming up, because that's what your subconscious mind is playing over and over and over again. So if you meditate and you hear these thoughts, write them down, then that's the first step, is bringing awareness to it. And then you can make a decision. Okay, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to think this way about myself or the world. What do I want to think instead? And then there's the steps to manifesting your new reality.
That was absolutely amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for sharing your story and all the tools that you used and everything that you've been through to get where you are today. I mean, you were pulling out some freaking golden nuggets, Heather. You were putting out some real golden nuggets. So my first question for you is, so to enter the mind, when you were going through this very traumatic time in your life, when you were leaving the house, crying, and during that 6 months, so what were the thoughts that were going on in your head during those 6 months? And what were the thoughts going on in your head when you started to be able to go outside, okay, and everything? Like, did they start to shift? Like, did they go from like, fuck this, like I'm fucking sad, I'm fucking depressed, to like a middle ground where it's like, I'm going to try and get up today. Like, I'm going to try and do better. And then eventually morph to like, okay, I'm better. I did it. You know, I want to see and hear the thoughts that were going inside your mind so other people can relate and be like, oh, I'm not the only one who has those kind of thoughts.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. And I might sound a little extreme, but this is just kind of my personality. When I make a decision, or when I realize something and I decide that I want something, I'm somebody who just goes full force, and I'm not going to stop until I have it. But that's just who I am. And so maybe not everybody can relate to that, but maybe a lot of people can relate to the way I was feeling, and I think that they can, just because I feel like these are my clients, like this is where they're at. I felt like I was broken. I felt like I was never going to get out of this feeling. Like, I felt like I was stuck here, and I just felt like the world was out to get me. Like, I felt like, what did I do? Like, I would constantly, the words that was like saying is, why do I deserve to be treated this way? Why did I deserve to be having these experiences? It was all, I was a martyr and a victim, you know? And it's like, I don't want to say those words as like they're wrong, because I was valid. I was valid for feeling my feelings. But that was just the truth of it, is I was a victim in this life. And I, you know, just kind of realized it when my body was shutting down. And thankfully, when my dad passed, I was introduced to the chakras and energy and meditation. So I had a small understanding of it. And when my body started to shut down, my throat was closing up and my heart was like palpitating, like it felt like it was contracting almost. So I started reading my chakra books, and I started to understand, okay, well, what's going on? Like, why does my heart feel like it's going to literally explode? Why do I feel like I'm being choked and like my throat is closing up? So I just started reading about the throat chakra, the heart chakra, the different chakras, energies, and I just started to understand. And I was just like, you know what? And then another thing that helped me, I started reading tarot cards. So I'm also a tarot reader, and I was reading my cards every day. And basically that was what was happening. They were trying to tell me that I felt like a victim. I was martyr. I was putting martyr on myself. Like, martyr was my experience. And so, and that, you know, of course, that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. I was like, I'm not a victim. I didn't deserve this. But then I started to realize, okay, all right. I'm going to listen to the universe. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they're just trying to help me. They're not trying to hurt me. Again, I was like victimizing myself. Like, no, the universe is just trying to be mean to me.
Oh,
but that's just where I was. Like, I was stuck. I was kind of stuck in this victimization feeling. Like, everything was out to get me. Nothing wanted to help me. It was me against the world, basically. And so I just decided, I basically started figuring out, okay, well, what's the opposite? And somebody told me this the other day, and I didn't realize, but it was just so powerful. Like, she was like, don't search for the solution to the problem, or you'll get more of the problem. And I was just like, because like what you're wanting to search for is, so you want to stop what you're doing, bring awareness to what you're doing, what the problem is. So my problem was victimization, right? And you want to figure out what you want to replace it with. You can't just be like, you can't ask the universe, how do I stop being a victim? Because the universe, the law of attraction does not work that way. You can't stop the sentence with be a victim, because that's what you'll be.
Totally agree. I get that. It's because that's the image that you pull up in your mind, is the victim.
Yes.
If you say, I'm not going to be a victim, well, what's the image in your mind? It's being a victim.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty much what you're saying is, when you were feeling like this super victimization, like, so you were asking questions in your head, like, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? And then, so I guess in your mind, would you say that they eventually got so painful that like you finally were like, because I remember you said, then I decided, that I would move forward. So what went on in your head? What were the thoughts? Like not necessarily skip the feelings, but like how did your thoughts transition?
So basically, like I said, it was just the pain. And it was literally like, I just started to realize, okay, maybe I'm the problem. And maybe the things that I'm saying is not like I'm a problem, like I suck, but maybe what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm saying in my mind and out loud is what's creating these issues, this toxic cycle of pain and trauma and bad relationships and just everything in general. So I was like, okay, well, fine. Then I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to say the opposite. So anytime I would say something negative or say something, that was bad, I would not stay there. I would catch myself. I would try to stop it before I finished the sentence. But if I finished the sentence, for example, so another thing that I felt like I'm so stupid. Like, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. So anytime I would say these things to myself, I would stop myself and I would say, you know what? No, I'm still learning. There's more for me to learn here. I would have, or if I would be like, God, why am I so ugly or whatever? I would just be like, you know what? No, I'm beautiful. And then I would figure out why.
Yes.
Why am I beautiful? And I would make my brain answer the good questions. Like if you ask in a shitty question, you're going to get a shitty answer. But if you start asking good questions, you're going to get good, empowering, inspiring answers. And you're going to start to see yourself from a whole new lens. And that's basically what was being born, was I was creating a new lens of my reality. So my reality wasn't really changing. It was the way that I was perceiving it. Mm-hmm. And so, which created a new experience in life. And then the next thing that I learned that changed my life, like you mentioned earlier, was gratitude. I learned how to look through my life experiences as a young child, as a middle schooler, every life experience. And what I realized was, wow, when I think about my past and when I think about the future, I think about all the pain and misery, and I think about the fear. So like in the past, I was looking at all the crap that I felt like had happened to me. And in the future, I was fearsome. I was fearful of what was actually going to happen in the future, as if it was going to happen again. And that's why when you live that way, when you live focused on the pain of your past, that's why the future recreates itself and you have these painful experiences in the future. So I had to adjust the way that my lens was focused on my past. And so I started to use gratitude practices, and I started to look at, okay, well, I had food, I had shelter, I had education, I always had a car, somewhere to go, I've always had a job, I've always had income, I've always had clothes on my back, I've always had my hygiene essentials, I've got my freaking eyeballs to see. I've got ears to hear. I've got all of these amazing miracle things going on in my life. What the hell do I really have to complain about? And when I really genuinely felt that way, and I stopped taking the things for granted in my life, and it was unintentional. I didn't realize I was taking things for granted. I did not realize that I was doing it. But once I did, and once I truly understood gratitude and how to actually use it, things just changed rapidly. Like of course, like all of these tools that I've mentioned on top of each other, like it was just an explosion of healing and just change in life experience. And another thing, that I like to always mention and tell my clients is I'm using this stuff today. For myself, I use this for my clients, they are at square one. My clients are at square one. They're where I was, a year or 2 years ago, whenever they were like losing their mind and they're done. They're numb to it all. And they don't want to be numb because their body might be shutting down, or they're at this point where they have to do something to change. But they feel like they can't. So they're at square one. But I always tell them healing comes in layers. And that's why it can be so important to have a mentor, a guide, a coach, anybody to help you get through the highs and lows, because healing is not a destination. You don't just arrive somewhere one day and get a certification. You're healed. Here you go. Have a nice life. Like I am still healing. Like there are still things that I find today. And it's like the generation. We heal, when we heal something in this lifetime, we're healing all lifetimes, all of our ancestral generations, and we're healing generational curses within our family. So that's a lot, and there's going to be a lot, and that's, you just got to accept and fall in love with being the student of life and fall in love with the healing process. The other day I woke up and I realized another thing that I needed to heal from my ancestral line. And I was in kind of a lot of, like not a lot of pain, but like I was emotionally uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And I just wanted to cry. And it was like, I had all the feelings, but then I like literally immediately started crying happy tears because I was so grateful that I had this awareness to heal this ancestral generational curse, or whatever you want to call it, within our family, to heal this in the mothers of my family, like, or anything, but that was just what I was experiencing the other day, was something to do with motherhood in my family. And which is where the postpartum like was so hard. And so yeah, it's a journey, and I'm just so thankful to be a coach, to be a mentor, to be a guide, but to also have mentors and guides, because I need someone that's one step ahead of me. So I'm one step ahead of some people, and then I need the steps. So there's a ladder here. We all are here working together. It's the masterminds coming together, like you guys on this show. You guys have such great chemistry because your minds help each other, So like, that's how it is when you have mentors and guides. You are your best guide, but it can be really beneficial to have somebody that might be one step ahead of you, that might be where you are wanting to be, because they can help you see things that you might not see yet.
First of all, thanks for sharing those personal stories and those challenges. As you were describing them, I couldn't help but think of like, oh, I know someone who just dealt with that, or I know someone who just dealt with that thing. And so these struggles that you went through over the last several years, I think are so relatable. And what I love about your presence in today's show is it's, to me, a testament to the power of resilience, and really a testament also to the power of the human mind, to really turn the spotlight on itself and really inspect what's going on in here inside the mind, hence our podcast named Enter the Mind. So all that being said, we got about 6 minutes, maybe a little bit more left. When you learned how to meditate the right way, it was different from what people typically make it out to be. So what's the number one mistake that people like misunderstand meditation as?
Well, in my opinion, it's that you're supposed to silence the thoughts and silence your mind. You're just supposed to sit in silence. But that's just not going to happen. And I mean, it might eventually, but not in the beginning, not the first time, and not the first probably 100 times you do it. But what happens is you start to understand your thoughts and your feelings. And then I recommend writing them down when you figure them out. That way you can transform them. And the more you transform them, the more quiet the mind gets. And that's why eventually the goal, or not the goal, I don't even think it's the goal in meditation, but that's why you hear people say you silence your mind. And it's because, but you've got to work through the mind to silence the mind. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah, you're saying you got to take awareness of your thoughts first, and then those thoughts will then become silent.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Kira?
I just wanted to do a tiny comment just for more clarity. I exploded when you said this because it's so freaking true. Like, most of the time when I meditate, all I do is I check what's in my mind for the day. And say I'm thinking about, love, or say I'm thinking about an ex-lover, say I'm thinking about, oh, my body looks so beautiful today. Then this is how I know. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's in my mind. Oh, okay, that's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing and doing what I'm doing. This is what's going on in my mind. So it's pretty cool. That's definitely a great tip for meditation.
So if somebody started a journal today and they started writing down maybe their negative thoughts or self-talk, what would be the exercise to change or transform those thoughts into maybe something higher vibration, if those are the right words?
Yeah. So basically I would figure out how do you want to be feeling instead? So for me, my goal was to be in alignment with love, compassion, and generosity, right? So you've got to figure out what it is for you that you want to be experiencing instead, and then call those emotions up. You can call those emotions up. So like if you want more confidence, call confidence. Where is it in your body? Build the confidence in your body, see the thoughts, and then in that confidence, in the energy, any energy that you want to be experiencing instead, just call that up, feel that energy, and then ask yourself, what's the opposite? What's the opposite of this negative thought? What's more empowering? What do I want to tell myself instead? And then, so maybe have two pieces of paper, and have the one piece of paper with the negative thoughts, and then have a separate piece of paper where you're going to write your new empowering thoughts, and then burn the other one. And then keep that one with you everywhere you go, or hang it up somewhere where you're going to see it every day. I like sticky notes. I have sticky notes all around my house with affirmations and reminders. It's just, these words are surrounding my environment. And this is what words have power. Words have energy, even if they're just written down. So I have these words all over my room, all over my house. So like, that's just, my environment is covered in, I'm powerful, I'm confident, high vibe words, high vibe feelings.
That's super, super cool. I love to call in confidence. I think that's really, it's number one, it's completely real. You can call it up, like ring, ring. You can call up like an old friend, be like, yo, confidence, where you at? Son, I need you right now. Thank you. So I think that's awesome. And then I know that this is a question that arose in me when I was dealing with my trauma. So I'm sure that a lot of women kind of have the same question. I think that people seem to think that trauma is only a very big happening that happened. Can going to the grocery store and seeing a spider on your hand be traumatic? You know, in your own words, like what can classify as trauma?
So every time, I'm glad that you asked this question. This is so important to me. And every time I kind of see it, like there's a picture that I see on the internet sometimes, and it's a picture of a big golden retriever and a tiny little dachshund. And there's like a mud puddle. And they walked through, and the dachshund is covered to here, and the golden retriever just goes up to his leg. And it's like, well, how deep was the mud puddle? And it says, depends on who you're asking, who went through it. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I feel about trauma. It just depends on who you are. Like, because I believe in past lives. I believe in ancestral passing on, generational curses. Like there's just certain things in the family. So I believe if you have extreme, maybe, as like the spider, something tiny, maybe something really bad happened with spiders in a past life. Yeah, that could be freaking traumatic to see a spider on you. So words can be traumatic. I talk about a story when I was 8 years old. I was starting to gain some weight as a child because my dad's side of the family, they were very processed food, very unhealthy, but both sides of my family had like obesity in the family. So I was starting to gain weight, and my mom's side of the family would, call me out, and they're like, no, you're getting fat. You need to limit your food. And as an 8-year-old, I didn't take that as, oh, they just love me and they want me to be healthy. No, I thought I was going to starve to death. And I was traumatized around food, and I created an eating disorder. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was over 200 pounds. So yes, trauma is anything that affects you mentally, emotionally, psychologically, anything. It could be literally words. It could be a sight. And like I said, it just depends, because you never know how many life experiences you've had. I used to be traumatized every time I go over a bridge. I think a bridge collapsed in a past life or something. Yeah. I'm telling you, trauma can be, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was extreme, if there was murder, rape, all the bad, crazy things that people think you have to go through to be considered traumatized. No, it could be literally simple as you're getting fat and you need to stop eating. You're going to starve to death and you're traumatized instantly over food.
That's, thank you for sharing that. That was definitely something that I think a lot of women and men needed to hear, because I don't think that we realize, we try and maybe fit ourselves in with somebody else's definition or somebody else's situation or happening or experience when in reality, you might not be scared of spiders. And, that doesn't mean that it's invalid for me to be traumatized by a spider. And
Yes.
I just think that that's a beautiful message for our listeners.
Another question, the stress response you talked about, and everybody being in a chronic stress response and not realizing it. So what would you say is the number one thing people can do to start to become aware that they are in a stress response?
What's coming to my mind, and it's just because this is what's helped me really understand, it's around my food. Because so like stress response, whenever you're in the stress response, you cannot digest your food. And you can't, and another thing is information. So, so a good way to tell if you're stressed, is if you eat a meal and it just feels like you ate nothing. If that makes sense. Have you ever eaten a meal and it just feels like you ate nothing? And it's because you have just eaten in the stress response. You were not digesting any of the nutrients from the food. And then another way that I've realized that I would be in the stress response is, if I try to read something and I physically, like, it's not that I can't read it, but it's like, I'm trying to, like, say there's a piece of paper and I need to read the whole thing. I'm just trying to glance at the words and trying to understand it. And it's not happening. Does that make sense? I'm not processing information and I'm not processing nutrients. So these were easy signs for me to tell, okay, I'm moving too quickly. I'm stressed right now. How can I come back into my body? Which the easiest way to do that is breathing. The easiest way to do that is through the breath and coming back. So there's a couple of different techniques, but the main technique is like deep breathing. So inhale for 5, hold for 5, and exhale for 7, a count of 7. So 5, 5, 7 is the easiest breathing technique you can do. You do that for about 2 minutes and you should be out of the stress response into the relaxation response, back into your body. So it's just kind of bringing an awareness, like, am I processing anything right now? Do I feel overwhelmed? And then making the decision to bring yourself back into the body. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Totally. Kira, last question.
Have you ever experienced sort of that almost like embarrassment? Like, oh my God, I was so scared of this one thing and I've been having this stress response and I've been tightening my body and I've been fucking up my own reality when there's not even actually any danger, right? So I know that happened to me when I would sort of cut away from the stress response, cut away from the illusion and come back to actual real reality. I was a little embarrassed. I felt a little empty. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, no, for sure.
Okay.
I used to get really frustrated at myself because there was a point in time for months I had not experienced really any dense emotions. I had been doing really well. And then email marketing happened and I lost my freaking mind. I got so frustrated. I was like so angry and it's almost like I couldn't control it. And then I was getting more angry and more embarrassed and more ashamed that I couldn't control it. Like, I've been working on these healing modalities. I've been doing all these things. Why am I getting frustrated? Why can't I control myself? And I realized healing comes in layers. Healing comes in layers and it's okay. So now what I had to do is I had to be okay with the dips. And so now when the dips come, I'm just like, all right, this is how we're feeling. This is all right. We're doing this. Well, what can we learn here? What do I need to know right now? It's basically like understanding your emotions. You got to understand the dips. You got to understand when you're kind of feeling something overwhelming, whether that's shame. But the thing that helped me the most was having mentors and guides, someone to talk to, when I felt like I was fucking up, when I felt like I was like, well, I'm a fraud. I thought I healed, but now I'm a fraud because now I'm experiencing stress. So the imposter syndrome just comes in. So it's really good to have a mentor to go to. And then having a mentor and hearing that they have felt this way too. It's like, oh, this is just how it's supposed to be. I'm just learning something new. You're the student of life. You're the student of life, falling in love with being the student of life and understanding that it's a journey and you're going to have these up and down moments and understanding that and falling in love with the downtime. because that's where you're growing. That's where the wisdom comes from. So you've got to look at the brighter side of it. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling down, but I'm going to come out of this even stronger. So that's the decision you've got to make. And that's what helped me stop feeling shameful when I would go into these divots, is I would like, you know what, I'm going to be more powerful, more wise whenever I come out of this hole. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining our podcast and coming on the show. It's, we're already at episode 71. And so if people haven't been listening all along, they might not realize it, but you are a perfect addition to this kind of common thread that is weaving through every single episode. And it really revolves around body awareness as an integral part of mental health, and just seeing that integration of mind and body, mental awareness, and reframing. You are like a master reframer from everything that I've heard you say. It's just taking a negative thought and boom, putting a spin on it and moving forward in life. And what a great example. And I hope people can, listen to some of these past episodes and realize that boom, 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 every single week, every episode, it's like, wait, this uncovering of the mind that we're doing, we're not jumping around from here to here. This is actually, we're peeling off one layer at a time, and it's one single project. So much gratitude to you for joining and sharing everything. If people want to follow up and learn more about you, what's the best way that they can do that?
So Facebook is like the main place that I am, but I'm on Instagram and I'm on YouTube. My handle for Instagram is Holistic Healer Heather, and then that's also my YouTube channel name. And then I'm pretty sure if you type in facebook.com/Holistic Healer Heather, you'll find my profile. You're more than welcome to send me a friend request and connect to me directly there. So any of those platforms I'm on, and you can find me and connect with me there.
Amazing. We'll put your links in the Facebook group for Enter the Mind as well, so that people can easily connect to your social media. So once again, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you to everyone watching and viewing. We'll be back soon with episode number 72.